he'll never perish. Alpha dog, the one your baby mama cherish. Been finger fucking this cash when I counted fuck a marriage. Fuck clout and over pulling that pistol out straight marriage. No doubt, who the extended out there out, know I'm talking about.
Most underrated producer of all time, part 5. When you hear the words Chicago rap, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Nowadays, you may think of the drill scene with guys like Chief Keef, Lil Durk, G Herbo, Polo G, as well as those who have passed on such as King Von, Juice WRLD, Fredo Santana, and FBG Duck, R.I.P. Some may go back to the early and mid 2000s with artists such as Bump J or Lupe Fiasco, one of my personal favorites, not to mention The Brat, Common, or even Chance the Rapper. But in order to find the true origin of Chicago hip-hop, we have to look back at the early and mid-90s with artists like Do or Die, Psychodrama, Crucial Conflict, and of course, TWISTA. I can remember being a kid, still in elementary school, riding with my parents or maybe my uncles or older cousins, hearing songs on the radio like Po Pimp, Player Like Me and You, or Emotions, and thinking, damn, who's making these beats?
And whoever was producing Do or Die,
They was cool.
I don't know who that was, but whoever was producing Do or Die.
It was smooth, but hard as hell at the same time. A style that matched the rapid fire, double, triple, and quadruple time flows that accompanied them. Who was the hands behind such majestic sounding music? Well, in order to find that, one would have to look no further than the legendary Traxster. Born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, Traxster started as a local DJ doing house parties. Eventually, as a gift for graduating grammar school, Traxster's mother would buy him a keyboard. At the time, he also wrote lyrics, which led him to realize that he needed beats for his songs. In high school, Traxster was part of a group called D to the S, which stands for Dedicated to the Streets. The group would go on to have success on the Chicago underground scene, at one point in time even having beef with Tretch and Naughty by Nature. Once their style got popular, more up-and-coming acts from Chicago would approach Traxster for beats, one of those being a group called Psychodrama, who ended up being a staple in Chicago rap with jams like Magic. Another one of those acts was a group called Do or Die, who was signed to Rap-A-Lot Records. Traxster would go on to produce Do or Die's first single, Po Pimp, and the rest is history.
That song has a very special place in my heart because it was really the record that I broke into the industry with. It's a record that helped define the Chicago sound, and I think it's one of the greatest records, greatest hip-hop records to ever come from Chicago.
Po Pimp would go on to be a smash, introducing the world to the rap style of Chicago. Traxster would go on to produce the majority, if not the entirety, of Do or Die's catalog, including the jam Player Like Me and You. Coincidentally, that hit record, Po Pimp, also featured a young, talented artist by the name of TWISTA, or Tongue Twister, on the last verse. At that time, TWISTA was well known around the city for his rapid-fire delivery, holding a Guinness World Record for the fastest English-speaking rapper, clocked in at 598 syllables in 55 seconds. Traxster actually worked with TWISTA on his second solo album, Resurrection, from 1994, having that same style that made D to the S popular. Ironically, that album would also spawn a diss track aimed at Tretch and Naughty by Nature called Suicide. On a side note, that album is one of the few times you'll hear TWISTA rapping at normal speed, actually a very good project. After the success of Po Pimp, TWISTA and Traxster would link back up to work on the 1997 classic, Adrenaline Rush. That album, to this day, is considered to be one of TWISTA's best, another personal favorite of mine. If you remember songs like Overdose, Emotions, or Get It Wet, just know those were all produced by no other than Traxster. He will go on to do TWISTA's next album, Mob Stability, with the Speed Not Mobsters, as well as other big records for TWISTA throughout his career, including the smash Make a Movie, featuring Chris Brown. Over the years, Traxster has continued to expand his repertoire, working with other well-known artists in the industry. One of his biggest hits would come in 2005, producing Mariah Carey's One and Only off the Emancipation of Me album, which was nominated for a Grammy. Traxster would speak briefly about that song.
Whenever I think about that record, I just think about how much a year can change your life and how much a record can change your life. And now they have to call me Grammy nominated because of a beat that I made one day in the studio for a whole nother artist. And it's just a chain of events that led to that.
A couple years later, in 2010, Traxster would get a chance to work this time with Ludacris, producing the hit record My Chick Bad, featuring Nicki Minaj, further proving his point that he could work with pretty much anyone. He also has a Beyonce credit on his resume, producing a remix to Cuff It, which obviously comes from Twista's Get It Wet, with Traxster's iconic sound. Unbeknownst to a lot of people, Traxster is behind some of the biggest hits in several different artists' careers. For example, I bet some of y'all didn't know he did Still Smoking for Mystical from the Unpredictable album, classic in the South. He also did I Do It for Big Sean back in 2011 from the album Finally Famous, which was a big song for both. Along the ways, he's worked with the likes of Cameron, E40, Scarface, Dub C, Sibo, Tech 9, and I'm sure many more. He's actually credited as a producer on the new Kanye and Ty Dolla $ign record, Vultures 1, showing that even to this day, that his musical expertise is very much required, just as much as it was in the early and mid-90s. Traxster is still very much involved in music, having his own YouTube channel where he shows behind the scenes of him in the studio with different artists or cooking up in the lab. Although multi-platinum and Grammy nominated, Traxster's name may or may not ring bells to a lot of the newer audience when it comes to the discussion of top producers. But regardless, for those of us who grew up enamored with this sound, a sound that molded and shaped Chicago hip-hop at a time where every other coast was having their own success, as they say, if you know, you know, that the legendary Traxster is one of the most underrated producers of all time. Stay solid.